I cheated on my husband 3 months ago. I need advice on how to make this right. Hi, I made a Reddit account to hopefully find some way to fix things between my husband and I. I would like to first of all say, please don't send me hate. I can assure you with 100% certainty anything you send to me I have already told myself. I am just looking for advice on how I can fix things, and we can be a loving couple again. 3 months ago, I went on a business trip, 3-day trip. On the first night, I went out for drinks with some of my coworkers. While out, a man started flirting with me, and I liked the attention. My husband has always been loving and supportive. He's handsome, in incredible shape, and he constantly compliments me. I don't know why I felt so gratified by this random guy, but I did. After way too many drinks, I went with him to his apartment and we had sex. Immediately afterwards, I realized what I had done and left. I cut my part in the work trip short, saying I felt ill and went home. I immediately confessed to my husband. I told him everything. Offered to answer all his questions. He just said he needed to go for a walk, and when he came back, he just asked me if I liked it. I was honest with him. I didn't. It was fumbly drunk sex with a man that clearly didn't care if I enjoyed it. This guy is nowhere near as good as my husband is. I told him all of this. He just stood there looking at me and told me he needed to go out for a bit to think and left again. He was gone for a couple of hours and finally stumbled back through the front door really drunk. He could barely speak. This has now become a common theme since it happened. He's gone from drinking maybe 3 times a month at the most to drinking every night, and not just drinking but getting blackout drunk and passing out either in our backyard or on the couch. He started smoking cigarettes again. He quit 2 years ago. He's been blowing off our friends when they invite him out to events. He just goes to work, comes home, drinks and smokes, passes out. He hasn't gone to the gym since I told him. He used to go 5 times a week. He barely eats anything. Whenever I try to talk to him, he just responds with short answers or mumbles. We had our first marriage counseling session today, and he barely spoke. The counselor tried to get something out of him, but he just did the same. Short answers or mumbles. I've offered everything I can think of to make things right. I've been doing the things he has always done for me. Make coffee for him each morning, tell him he's handsome, offer to do errands for him. He doesn't seem to care anymore. He just seems like a shell of his former self. I'm really scared I've done something irreparable. I haven't seen him smile this entire time. 2 nights ago, he came back from whatever pub he has been drinking at with a bloody nose and a black eye. I was horrified and tried to find out what happened. He just told me to F off. He started telling me I might as well go find that guy I cheated with so I can be happy. I tried telling him I've always been happy with him, but he threw it back in my face asking why I cheated then. I don't have an answer. I've spent these months racking my brain, but I can't think of a single reason why I did it. He wasn't better looking, nicer, in better shape, more attentive, anything. That conversation when he came back with the bloody nose and black eye is the longest one we've had since I told him what I did. I don't know what to do. Have I ruined my marriage? I'm asking the men here, is there something your cheating partner did that made you feel better? I'm lost. I love my husband more than anything, and watching him spiral is killing me. Please, I need advice. If I've done anything in this post the wrong way, can someone let me know? I really need advice, and I've never really used Reddit before. My sister recommended that I make a post. Here is a comment with a good summary of what people had to say.
This is a very sad post. I feel deeply for you. The reality is, there is very little you can do to help him if he doesn't want your help. The pain he is feeling is so intense that the only thing he can do is numb himself with alcohol. That tells me he doesn't have the coping mechanisms to survive this experience. If he cannot develop these, he is heading down a very dangerous road. The bloody nose and black eye is just the beginning. I do not think he should continue marriage counseling. There was nothing wrong with your marriage. Marriage counseling is just waste of time and money at the moment. It is just a desperate attempt at fixing what was never broken. Infidelity is most serious emotional abuse any person can endure. He desperately needs individual counseling. Also, he needs to join Alcoholics Anonymous to help him cut alcohol from his life for good. He might need an intervention with friends and family to make him snap out of it. Which means you will have to tell these people why he changed from a loving husband into a raging alcoholic. Have you told anyone about what you did? Keep your eyes and ears open for any talk of ending the pain, or himself. Alcohol is a depressant, it could lead him to become a danger to himself. You ask, what can you do to help him? Fix yourself. There is something broken inside of you that allowed the words of a complete stranger lure you into a night of drunken sex without thinking on how this would affect your marriage. This is who you really are, and you need to change yourself. Until you find out what this brokenness is and develop the self-esteem necessary to withstand the advances of the next guy, you will not be a safe partner for anyone. Again, marriage counseling is not going to help you. You need individual counseling. Lastly, you need to understand two things. First, the marriage you had is dead, you killed it. You will never be able to have it back. You might be able to build something new but never as good as before. Second, the man that was your husband is dead. This behavior you described is just himself resisting this transformation which had been trusted upon him, against his will. He is broken and needs to find a way of picking up the pieces and rebuild himself. It could be that he realizes that the only way of doing this is by divorcing you and finding someone that can protect his heart better than you. You need to accept this if it gets to that. If you are a person of faith, I would advise you to pray for your husband and your marriage as hard as you can and enroll the help of other people of faith, because right now you too are heading for disaster. When people talk about hell on earth, they are talking about what your husband is going through right now. I will pray for you too.
I am struggling to see myself as anything other than a terrible person. 3 months ago, I strayed. I made a post a couple of days ago. The advice was really good and I've actioned some of it. I'm sorry if this post is too long, but I need to get some of this out. A lot of the advice on my last post was to tell someone close to my husband what I did and to tell them that he needs help. I ended up telling his best friend. I asked her to come over 2 nights ago so I could explain why my husband has been refusing to see any of his friends and why he has been so absent. I told her everything. She rightfully so exploded at me, called me terrible names and asked where he was. He had gone to a pub, which since finding out has been his routine every day. She left telling me he'd be an idiot to not leave you. They came back home 20 minutes later and she told me to pack some bags because I needed to stay with my parents. I tried to argue, but my husband told me to leave. I've told my parents as well now. They were confused as to why I was showing up at their house at 8 p.m. with 3 bags full of clothes. I sent him a text today telling him I love him and I'll do anything to earn back his trust. I also called his best friend to see if she's had any progress on his drinking. She told me he's gone to a group alcoholics session to talk it out and has seemed better. He's also poured out all the alcohol in the house. She has been staying with him to make sure he doesn't do anything crazy. I don't know if I can say the word here, but you get what I'm saying. My parents are furious at me, especially my mom. She just keeps asking me why. My dad has barely spoken to me. Every time my phone vibrates, I get a little panic attack. I'm terrified I'll get a message from him telling me he's done with me and never wants to speak to me again. I know I probably deserve him divorcing me, but I'll do anything to make this work. I just keep thinking about that night. My husband is handsome, in incredible shape, loving, affectionate, compassionate, and the most caring man I've ever met, and I threw it away for sex with a dish bag I'll never see again. For someone that was lesser than my husband in every way. My sister even has decided she doesn't want to see me for a while. She doesn't trust me around her husband anymore. I'm sure all of his friends know what happened because all of them have blocked me on social media now. I deserve this, and so much more. Sorry for the rant, I just need to get this out. I probably won't reply to many comments. I'm just feeling overwhelmed. Please know that any advice is greatly appreciated even though I don't really know what I'm looking for right now. I just wish I could go back and stop myself. I wish I never went on that business trip. I wish I was a better person and wife. I guess I'm realizing I never deserved him. Comment 1. Honestly, you did a really good thing. Not only is taking responsibility for your actions really important when gunning for reconciliation, and this includes with your family and friends, but are allowing your betrayed husband to get the help he desperately needs. To be honest, I can't tell you not to feel that you were being terrible, because you were. But if you really want to move forward, you have to get to a point where you can look at what you did as a part of you, but not what defines you as a person. Feel guilty, absolutely, but don't sit and rip yourself to shreds. It won't help your husband, and it won't help you. My best advice? Use this time to grieve. Grieve the loss of what your relationship used to be, and what it could have been. And after you do so, pick yourself up and work. Find yourself, find who you are outside of your relationship. Accept the changes coming, both to yourself and your relationship, and forge a new path forward. If the worst happens, and your spouse can't move towards reconciliation, just remember that you are a human being. Human beings make bad decisions, but that doesn't make us all bad people. If you choose to be better, you will be able to find a fulfilling love again.
Comment 2. Actions have consequences, and in betraying your husband you've also hurt those around you. Being seen as the family pariah sucks, and I do emphasize, but it's to be expected. Nothing to do, but move forward and do the work. Whether or not your husband chooses to remain in this marriage is up to him. Whatever he chooses shouldn't impact your choice to be better. You shouldn't strive to be a better person and partner for him, but for yourself, so start with that. As to your husband's alcohol abuse, I'm glad he's getting the support and help he needs. Alcohol isn't the best vice, and he wouldn't accept help from you given the circumstances. I hope his support network keeps him in check. Whatever comes of this, I hope you'll not fight him in whatever choice he ultimately makes. Cheaters aren't inherently bad people, just selfish bad partners. You may not be able to change the past, but you can control your own actions moving forward. Get therapy, take full accountability, give him space, and support whatever decision he makes.
I saw my husband again today, and I messed up. I know I shouldn't have, but I saw my husband today. I have quit my job. I'm using my saved-up leave to get out immediately, so I don't have to give them my final 4 weeks, before being officially out of the office. Word has spread around my office, what I did. I kept getting looks from my coworkers, and I couldn't take it anymore. My first day off was today, and I've spent most of it crying. I couldn't take it anymore, so I drove to our house to speak to him. I know I promised him space, but it was like someone was sitting on my chest. I was hoping we could talk. Part of me was also hoping he would be at work and I wouldn't see him because I know he doesn't want to see me. He was home. When I walked in the door, he just looked at me expressionless. I told him I needed to speak to him. Just to hear his voice. He told me to just go back to my parents. He sounded so fed up with me. I tried telling him how I was feeling, but he just said he needs time to think about everything. His best friend was there, and she started yelling at me, telling me to go. I tried saying I just wanted to speak to my husband, and she laughed and told me I might as well start calling him my ex. He stopped her, which I appreciate, and asked her to give us some time to talk. She was clearly reluctant, but did walk out of the room. I asked him if he was going to go to marriage counseling this week, and he said no. He told me he doesn't know if we'll be able to make it past this. He doesn't see me as his wife anymore. I told him I wouldn't fight it if he wanted a divorce, but if he was willing to give me a chance I'd do anything to earn back his trust. I told him I'd quit my job and I'd find one that meant I could work from home and I wouldn't take a trip anywhere unless he came with me. I'd only drink around him and only drink if he did. I'd give him access to my phone and social media. He'd have my location at all times. He just looked at me and said he isn't a prison guard and has no intention of becoming one. I tried telling him it isn't about being a prison guard, it's about showing him I'm serious about earning back his trust. He looked down and told me that was unlikely. He asked me if I've ever cheated before, and I promised him I haven't. He asked me to explain what happened that night. All the details. I didn't want to, but I did. He just looked at me the whole time silently listening. I didn't spare anything. I told him everything. He just asked me if that's all it took for me to destroy our marriage. Some guy offering to buy you drinks and compliment you is all it took. I was a mess at this point. I told him I was wrong and selfish. I had done something unforgivable, but I was determined to show him how much I love him. He just looked down and said it's clear I never truly loved him. I loved myself and what he could give me, but I didn't love him. I told him that wasn't true, but he just looked at me and told me it is. If I loved him I wouldn't have done this. That I had plenty of opportunities to not cheat, but I went through with it for my own selfish reasons, and that he didn't want to be with someone who could do that. He told me the thought of having sex with me now made him feel nauseous. That in his eyes I wasn't worth it. He told me he didn't need to hear anymore, and me showing up to speak to him was proof I didn't care about his needs. He said he was going to find a divorce lawyer in the next 2 weeks and start the process. It felt like a knife in my chest. I begged him to wait till I was in counseling so I could make real progress for him, but he said I should anyway, but our marriage was over. He told me he'd be willing to split our money down the middle and sell the house so we could start our own lives again. He told me once the divorce was done he didn't want anything to do with me. He'd seen the true me, and he didn't like it. He told me to grab anything I needed from the house, and that the next time he'd speak to me would be with whoever he hires to be his divorce lawyer. I hate myself. I've ruined my marriage, not even 5 years into it. I read all the comments on my last post and I appreciate all of them. A lot of them put a mirror up for me to see how awful I've really been. I'm sorry for not responding to all of them, but I didn't have answers for a lot of them. My counseling starts in 2 weeks and I'm still going to go. I told my parents what he said and my dad just said good for him and walked away. My mom just said consequences and hugged me. I tried talking to my sister, but she told me to go to hell. I appreciate everyone who reached out privately. Even the hateful messages. I deserve them all. I know he won't have any issue finding someone to be with. I just wish he wanted to be with me. Comment 1. You chose poorly. Now he has chosen. At this point, the best, most loving thing you can do for your husband is to give him the easiest divorce, with terms most reasonably favorable to him, as quickly possible. Do not argue, fight or delay. Do not continue to beg for reconciliation. Let him go, and leave him alone, forever. If he wants to seek you out in the future, he will. Maintaining your presence in his life against his wishes is selfish and will hinder his healing. These are the consequences for your selfish actions. You must accept them graciously and allow him to move on and heal. Unfortunately, you failed the wife test in spectacular fashion. You need to recognize that you are broken and there is no redemption for this relationship. You alone destroyed it, period. Seek counseling for yourself and do not cease until you have concrete answers as to why you did what you did so easily, carelessly, and without any consideration for anyone but yourself. For goodness sake, do not drag anyone new into a relationship until you have these answers either. Hopefully, you can fix yourself and become someone worthy of love and trust in the distant future. This story saddens me, and I cannot say that I sympathize or empathize with anyone but your husband and his family and friends. Good luck.
Comment 2. When we cheat on our partners, it isn't only them we injure. We hurt everyone connected to that person, and us. I know this must hurt like a lot. What always makes it worse is, they aren't wrong in many of the things they say about us when they are hurting. Not always, but many. I haven't heard it put so harshly, but in the end he was not wrong that it seemed to be such a little reward for you to throw away so much. That has to sting everything in him. We do not have to stay like this. I am happy you have something to look forward to. I hope you use therapy to create a better you. It's time to build some constructive outlets in the immediate future. Start working out. Get a hobby. Read some self-help books. These things will help occupy the time and can be constructive and help you build that better you. Even as a former wayward, I usually come down hard on cheaters. Particularly those that post a lot of self-delusion. I see none of that here, and that makes me believe you have such a good chance of turning yourself around and not making this define you, but a defining moment that you can use as a catalyst to become something incredible. Let me start that process by adding this. I think you are awesome for not playing games. You knew he was crashing. You knew there was a high likelihood that getting him that help could galvanize his friends against reconciliation, and yet you did what was right. Even though it might hurt you. That speaks to the great foundation at the core of who you are. Even though you may end up losing this marriage, still early, you solidly win at being human. 9 out of 10 for being flawsome. Flawed, but awesome. Comment 3. Ouch. Not everyone is willing to try reconciliation. Even those that start, many drop out of the process. You need to get to individual therapy. It's helpful for processing what's happening. I don't think there was anything you could have said to change the outcome.
I feel awful and unclean. I've been struggling to sleep since I last saw my husband. I can barely sleep longer than 3 hours, and when I do sleep, I keep having these awful nightmares. My counseling session is in a couple of days, but I'm not doing well at all. I can't really talk to anyone either because all of my close friends have been supporting my husband now that they know about my infidelity. My sister won't talk to me or return any of my messages. My dad is seeming to do everything he can to avoid me, and my mom has been very clear about how disappointed she is given my actions, and has been giving me the silent treatment mostly, and if she isn't doing that she is just telling me how disappointed she is and not allowing me to open up about how I'm feeling. My whole life has collapsed around me. I understand that I don't deserve to be coddled, but I can't even speak to my parents about how I'm doing. I've barely been able to eat, I have no appetite, and most of what I do now is cry in my room at my mom and dad's house. I hate that the most recent sexual interaction I've had was with the man I cheated on my husband with nearly 4 months ago. I feel dirty. I keep showering, but the feeling doesn't go away. I just want to be with my husband. I know I have no right to feel like this, but I find myself daydreaming about being with him again like that. Even if just to make that my last intimate experience. I haven't heard from a divorce attorney yet, so there is some hope there, but I also haven't heard from my husband, so I don't know. I messaged his best friend who is staying with him currently to support him and make sure he's okay. She just replied with "he's doing fine all things considered." She hasn't responded to any of my follow-up messages. I hate myself and what I've done. I don't know what to do with myself right now. How do I get rid of this feeling like I'm unclean? How do I sleep without these nightmares? How can I repair at least one of the relationships with someone in my family so I can talk to someone about how I feel? I wrote a letter for my husband that I don't know how to get to him. I'm not going to bother him, and I'm just going to keep it aside so I can give it to him when he decides he is willing to see me again. I regret everything I did and wish I could take it back. I can't though, so how can I get to a point where my life isn't a living hellscape? Thank you for reading if you do. Comment 1. I'm not a wayward spouse. I've read your posts and believe you have value as a person, compassion and remorse. You need to engage in some self-care and find a degree of peace and stability. It's not about deserving it or not, it's just necessary. Walk. Long walks if your area is safe. If you happen to have a dog, even better, go together. If you can safely go off track into nature, even better again. When my marriage hit the skids a few years back, we're back on track now. I went on 4 to 6 hour trail walks with my dog on the weekends. Take water and food, rest as necessary. You will find yourself meditating or contemplating, but in a very unforced way, not so much of the ruminating and spiraling. You will get physically tired. You will get a little hormone kick too. That was the start for me. Other things followed. My other advice: eat, drink water, completely abstain from alcohol until you are in a better place. Don't be ashamed to go to your trusted primary care physician or to take recommended medication. Clinical depression is no joke. Comment 2. I know you're trying your best, and you're feeling alone and isolated, and that all sucks, but you really need to take some space and take a breath. Right now, from his perspective, you are love bombing him. This is a tactic abusers use to rug sweep their abuses. I'm not saying you're doing that on purpose, but he is giving you clear signals that he doesn't want to see or hear from you right now, and you need to respect them, as hard as it may be. You took away his agency when you went outside the marriage for sexual gratification, and now you're trying to take away his agency when he's choosing to take space from you. Stop reaching out to his friends. Stop thinking about how to get letters and messages to him. If you need to write a letter to him for your sake, fair enough, but operate as if he will never see it. He is doing fine, all things considered. That's what you need to focus on. You hurt him, but he's doing okay. Leave it at that. The only way through the hellscape is forwards. Your counselor likely will respond to an email if you send one to them. And if not, there are crisis mental health services all around. Google one in your area. You need to come to terms with the fact that he may never want to see you again. And that is his choice, and it is a reasonable and fair reaction to your infidelity. Coming to terms with what you have done and the possible repercussions for your actions is the only way to stop feeling unclean. Owning your actions and time are the remedies for other relationships.